You are $90 million in your career, but mostly that was in the back half of your career, right? Like 80% of the earnings were in the last 6 years. So like you told me that your contracts in the first several years were like year to year. So I would love to understand like that stress. I mean, the first year you got what, 300 and some $1,000, and then it was like 1.1 pre-tax, by the way. But I mean, you're basically one injury away from going to a 9 to 5 job at any given time. It must have felt
Yeah.
like how stressful is that? Did you think about
What's
it?
No, you just think about going forward. At that point, I had already been through the back injury, Tommy John surgery, in the minors. So I wasn't really concerned with going backwards. I felt like the care was so much better at the major league level that as long as you get to that level, then a lot more is there for you. Plus, as you get older, you have more overuse injuries, which are sort of you can work with those a little bit, as opposed to, like, let's say the big injury.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you survive that first, like, couple years, the minors or whatever, the earlier you get to the majors, the better, because then you're getting better recovery, better food, better money. You keep yourself in a better position. You don't have to compromise and eat peanut butter and jelly and stuff like that. But I had roommates until I was 30 years old. I would go home in the off season and I had a roommate, and or three roommates or whatever. And I had friends that were outside of the sport, and that was the thing for me psychologically that helped the most, because then I could be myself with those guys. We could talk about music or movies or whatever. We could go water ballooning or go surfing or go ride motorcycles or just fun stuff. And then during the season it was just all about winning, and that's all it ever was. I think the big thing is you're always trying to advance yourself to get a better job on the team. So you started as a middle reliever, worked my way up. I was like, okay, well, I want to be a closer. Then when I saw the writing on the wall that they didn't want me to be a closer because I was left-handed, I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll be a starter. And then and that ended up working out pretty well for me. I really wish that I would have been a starter maybe 2 or 3 years earlier, like 2007, because then I think that I would have got a lot more out of my career, and I probably would have avoided some of the injuries that I got because I was getting overuse problems as a reliever. But I think overall, like, my career worked out pretty well. I thought about playing one more year. I kind of wish I would have at some point, but it is what it is, and here I am, and three kids, two dogs, and three car dealerships later.
I was about to say
Um,
3 car dealerships.
yeah, I mean, at one point I had like a bunch of stuff. I had like motorcycle stores and all this other stuff because I was trying to do everything to learn more about the industry. And what I learned was that motorcycle dealerships are a bad investment. That's the number one lesson. That's
I
like
mean,
they're
so the other thing about being a professional athlete is that you're getting paid in ordinary income. It's the highest tax bracket, and then you also get taxed when you go city to city, right? I mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of there's city
yeah.
taxes, there's agents. You had to pay for. Did you have an agent? Did you pay agent
Yeah,
fees?
yeah, you pay for
Yeah.
you pay for agent and stuff, but I think like the
What
important
kind of
thing is
percentage do these agents take? By the way, I'm just curious. On a
like 4 or 5%. It's not as bad as like
it's like
actors
another
and stuff.
tax. I mean, it's unbelievable. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I mean, come on, dude. Like, nothing's taking you past that state income tax in California. Like, that's the number one thing.
That's insane.
So I probably, looking back on it, I had a choice to sign with a different team out of California or in California. But because I'm from California, I was like, okay, well, that'll probably be the best experience.
Hmm.
And it turned out to be a good experience, for the most part.
Where was the
But
other team? Where was the other team you could have went to?
I'd rather just not talk about it because it's like it
Oh,
sounds like I'm sour grapes about not signing with them, or the way that or I'm like
sure.
I'm dissing them for and that's why I didn't sign with them. But I would just say that I had a bigger offer, and if I could do it again, I might have
Was it
gone
a
the other.
tax-free state for income tax, state tax, or no?
It actually was, yes.
Oh, dude,
So
you're crazy.
yeah.
You
Well,
went
pretty
from
much anyone that
experiences.
you
That's an expensive experience.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, whatever, like quality of
It is
life,
what it
right?
is.
Like, I do like living in California. I mean, I definitely wouldn't live in certain states, even though there's a lot of cost advantages of living in those other places.
Yeah,
I do like the California lifestyle. I like the fact that
sure.
it's I don't know. I guess it's March, and I'm trying to think of the times that I saw snow this year on accident. Like, once.
Television?
So yeah, like once I saw one day of snow, like in the last 365 days, on accident. So, you know, I can't really complain in that
Yeah.
regard, if that makes sense.
No, totally. I mean, it's not about that. It's just the economics that I think a lot of people don't understand, right? And
No, the
where
economics suck for sure. You go to
yeah.
Cleveland, you're paying tax to play in Cleveland. I'm
Hmm.
like, is it really such a great city? Like that I have to pay extra to play in Cleveland? Because I'm like, I don't get extra tax like to go. I don't get like a Boston tax. You know what I mean? Because you pay the
Right.
Ohio tax and the Cleveland tax. And I'm like, what is this crap?
It's
Um,
unbelievable.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It kept me hungry because it kept me like energetic towards other things, entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And, ultimately, I think coming out of the baseball experience, having that work everyday mindset has really been really good for the car business because it's kind of, it's kind of how the car business is.
And
More
and
of
the car business wasn't necessarily because you wanted to make up for all the taxes. It was that you had a passion for the cars and you got into
yeah,
the car racing business and you were like, well, I got to finance this hobby somehow. Isn't that kind of how that happened?
yeah. The racing thing is just like the worst. I mean, that is like,
It's a money
I
pit.
did the math on that one time. I was like, yo, I need something. I need like an offset or I need to stop because this is just, but I can't
Right.
stop because it's too fun. So, that's kind of how I looked at it. But I would say that, for me, I always looked at it like I'm interested in business. I'm interested in macroeconomics in the '07 to '09 period. When I was really coming into my own as an income thing, like the world was kind of crumbling down from like
Mm.
the downturn and stuff. And I got burned. I mean, like my condo that I had in Dallas at the time, like I bought it for this much, and it's probably only worth this much now because it was
Mhm.
like speculative asset or whatever at the time. It just you get nuked on some stuff. I have gotten a lot of benefits from that over the years, obviously, but I would say that the number one thing is it made me understand that I'm gonna have to work once I get out of baseball if I want to have a lifestyle at a certain level, right?
Mhm.
The car dealership business is cool because I do like the fact that I have a lot of places to put my effort, because I'm just wound up. And then it's also cool because there's an element of creativity, which is where you're able to differentiate yourself with the way that you build the cars. Because we personally order every single car that we get. So every Audi, every Porsche, every BMW, like we spec them out. So we have
That's
like
cool.
there's three people on the whole campus that get to spec out cars: me, Sean, and Mike. Mike specs the BMWs. Sean specs the Audis. I spec the Porsches. I do all of it. And that's why I keep looking at my computer because I'm like, I do have to do three more before the end of the day. But that's something that I think is important. For me to get those creative juices out there because I have just
Yeah.
like I feel like I have a lot of creativity. I'm inspired by a lot of stuff. I don't have as much time as I wish I did, but maybe that's the next phase is I finally get to let my creativity muscle stretch a little bit and maybe I can do paintings or write my scripts or whatever it
We
is
talked about that.
whatever I want to do. Yeah, exactly.
So, dude, share with me a baseball story, crazy baseball story that you haven't shared with anybody else. Give us a story.
That I
Locker
haven't
room,
shared with
something,
anybody
whatever.
else. Well, I get to
What about
do.
what about this one?
Yeah, mano no mas. So I had a teammate that allegedly, I have to say this, cut a guy's hand off in the Dominican Republic with a
Oh my
machete
god.
at a disco in a dispute over that other guy's girlfriend. So player starts trying to mac on homie's girl. Homie gets mad, punches player. Multiple punches are thrown against player. Player goes home, grabs a machete,
What the
and
fuck?
and decides, I think for show him who's boss. And I'm like, this is a bad idea. So he,
It's a bad idea.
I take motocicleta back to the club, and they tap me down, tap tap, but they don't check the Timberland boot. And I'm like, the what? And he goes, Timberland boot. And I'm like, okay, Timberland boots, got it. So he tucked the machete like into his boots
Unbelievable.
over, he put his jeans over it or whatever, and goes in there. I mean, I just picture this like doom 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 like this like Sean Paul video, and when did time does it gonna all of a sudden you know what I mean? So he's like, I see the guys, and I pull out the knife, and they start throwing bottles at me, and then I go, ah! And then, mano, no mas. I mean, this is a very condensed version of it.
Oh my god.
He's telling us the story in Double A, and we're all like, cut a guy's hand off, like,
What
oh
the,
crap, like he's gonna kill us all.
yeah,
So after
right.
that name, the major leaguers started calling him the bone collector. But that particular player, he was a disaster. He got addicted to drugs. He had a whole big problem with everything. Um, I mean, like it's a sad story. And he was eventually there was like a not a 30 for 30, but there was a sort of like what happened to him now.
Mm.
But like this guy was very creative, but he was off his rocker. He was one of those like rock star type of people. And what I mean by that, like this, like one of those eccentric, like lead singer type people. I don't know how else to explain it, but people that like music will know what I mean. That he just wanted to like wear cool clothes and be weird. I believe he married a prostitute at one point.
Oh
So
my
usually
god.
I would frown upon that. I would also discourage. And he got in trouble because he tried to go home in the All-Star break to discourage it, with her, because he heard she was working again, and he got arrested. I mean, it's just like all this bad stuff that happened with this guy. But it would the funny stuff that would happen. He'd be on the plane, right? We would have a day game in Oakland, and day games in Oakland are at like 12:30 or something like that. They're super early. So we would stay in the city. We take the BART or the bus to the stadium, and the way we would do it is you'd have to wear a suit. So you put on your suit, you take your luggage down to the lobby, give it to the bellman, put it with the baseball stuff, and then you get on the bus and go. And so we played the day game, right? We lost or whatever, won, doesn't matter. So now we're on a plane. Okay, so it's sequence, right? Wake up, put on your clothes, give the luggage to the guy, get on the bus, play the game, get on the bus, get on the next plane in the air. We're flying somewhere over a flyover state like Utah or something like that. And he's like this, and he goes, "Oh shit! Oh shit, man! Oh no! Oh no, man!" We were like, "What happened?" And he goes, "My luggage in the closet." We're like, "Dude, that was 9 in the morning. It's like 7 at night right now. What are you talking about?" He goes, "I forgot." You
Oh
just
my god.
you just wear a suit. You forgot. We played a game. At any point, you could have called somebody. They could have sent it. Like they could have put some dude on the BART. You could have given him $100, and he would have been fine. Like that would have been
Oh my
totally.
god.
And this guy was just like, so we'd be sitting there going like, "Oh my gosh!" And my roommate at the time was this guy named Cameron Lowe, and Cameron was from Northridge, and he's a really fun guy, 6'8". Okay, he had a Colombian red-tailed boa constrictor, like as a pet. Right, he liked to play guitar. He liked to play Guitar Hero and video games, and just an all-around interesting, fun guy from LA. Right, and he was like, "Dude, we need to make like an R-rated like children's book about this guy. Call it The Adventures of Johnny Sunday instead of Curious George." So it's like Johnny Sunday forgets his suit, like Johnny Sunday smokes weed in Harlem, like Johnny Sunday, like all these things. And this guy was like, I was like, how is this possible? But he was a mess. And like one time they tried to send him down to the minors, and he got like completely obliterated. And he was like taking a lamp, like how the lamps in the hotels, they have like a really long cable, right, to
Yeah.
get back to the wall. And he was taking it, he was like swinging it like this, like, no, no going back, no going back. And people were like, what's wrong with this guy? And he kept getting chances, and they're like, how are they bringing this guy back up to the majors? Like he's a disaster. But it was
Yeah.
like he's got a great changeup, you know. This is like
Exactly.
this is
He
like
throws 100
2000,
miles an hour.
yeah,
Right.
this is like 2005, 2006. So this is like pre-Twitter, right? There's no way this
Yeah.
shit would have gone down with Twitter era. No way.
Yeah.
As soon as Twitter came out, they were like, "Whoa!" People were going to report on this, like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah.
trade this guy."
Social media
Yeah,
changes the
but before
game.
that, they sweep stuff under the rug.
Yeah.
I also had a teammate named Vicente Padilla who I thought was hilarious, and he liked to hit people on purpose. And then I also had a teammate named Mark Teixeira. Mark Teixeira hated getting hit, and he was like the big bopper. He was like a 30, 40 home run guy. So dudes were gonna like pitch him tough, regardless. But he would be like, "Throw that shit over the plate, let's go." So Padilla smokes like Jorge Posada. We're in New York, and then somebody hits Teixeira, and Teixeira got so pissed off, he like went after Padilla in the locker room. He
Oh
like
my god.
like after the inning, he like ran in there with a bat and he was like screaming at him like he's gonna hit him with a bat or something like that. He's like, "This bullshit. If you're not good enough to pitch, go home. Like throw strikes. Stop hitting these guys." And he was like pissed at that because he was pissed that he got hit. And as a bullpen guy, I mean, I was kind of like, "Yo, man, hit him," because like I don't want him comfortable when when I have to face him. So go ahead.
Exactly. That's awesome.
But yeah, Padilla was different. He was a different guy, but he was from Nicaragua, and the story that he told me, and that I heard from like one of his handlers or whatever, was there was a big like guerrilla war in Nicaragua, when he was a kid. But he had thrown like 90 miles an hour in some sort of like youth tournament. So and a bunch of his brothers actually got killed like on both sides, like the rebels
Wow.
and the whoever was in there. So they literally did like a DMZ around his house. They did like a demilitarized zone. They're like, nobody recruit Padilla. Like let Vicente pitch because he's going to be a national treasure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so of course he does what everybody does is he gets the big contract, gets a Lamborghini, does the whole thing, like lives large. He pitched for a really long time, but he negotiated his own contract when he was 15 years old.
Wow.
So the story that
He didn't have an agent? He did himself?
no, this is great, right? So he's in Nicaragua, and this is when the Diamondbacks were an expansion team. So they're going to sign him, and he shows up 10 minutes late. He rides his donkey, right? Like
Okay.
rides his donkey to the meeting at the local, like, I don't know, whatever it's called, like the local bar or something like that, where they're doing this deal. And it's just him and the donkey, and then Buck Showalter, a translator, and Mark Connor, the pitching coach. And Padilla goes, "How much will you give me?" And they're like, "We're going to give you $5,000." He goes, "That is an acceptable amount. But what about my donkey? When I am gone, who takes care of my
Get
donkey?
the fuck out of here.
This is his negotiating technique. He is so savvy as a 15-year-old to say, like, listen, I need to pay somebody to take care of my donkey, otherwise maybe they'll eat him. So I got to pay him. So they're like, okay, you know what? 7,500. He goes, 10,000. We're good. And then boom, 10,000. But this guy, like, he threw 97.
What about my donkey?
Yeah, what about my donkey? But so you have to imagine, like, this is what I talk about all the time, because this is when we're a clubhouse to, like, change it, right?
Yeah.
People all the time say, yeah, but it's not that bad in America. It's not that bad. It's this, it's that, it's whatever. I said, yeah, but you don't understand, dude. America's only 300 million people.
Yeah.
Like, think about it, dude. There's people with dirt floors that have like a literally like a dictator running their country.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think they need Bitcoin? Like, you think that they trust the petrodollar in Venezuela after what's going on down there? You think that that's really going to be okay? You think that these other countries, Eastern Bloc countries, or maybe the printing press, the IMF countries, or maybe the Asian countries, you think any of those people trust their governments? Like, what are you thinking, right? Africa, the continent, or is there a good ruler anywhere in the entire continent? Like, so, like that whole thing about like Bitcoin, like, oh, like it's not really necessary. It might not be necessary if you live in Beverly Hills. It might not be necessary if you live in Fresno, California, or Tom's River.
Yeah.
Or
There's
wherever.
8 billion people on the planet, though.
There's billions of other people that it is necessary because they have no other option. Like, there is no other fungible money. That's
Dana.
like, it's like, if you think that it's okay, you're wrong. So, does that make sense though? And so I think about that because I had teammates that came from those places. I have a wife that came from one of those places. I've been to some of those places. So, like, I think about it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? If I was living in XYZ city, country, wherever, different time zone, different, hemisphere,